So, I've had a Twitch account for a fair few years, and as any reasonable person would do, I've been piggybacking off of the family Amazon Prime account to snatch up the Twitch Prime subscription it comes with. Most of what I get is in-game rewards and sometimes actual games, like a lot of games, like so many games. I have so many games, most of which I've never heard of before and wouldn't otherwise own, I think. At the time of writing this, I have over 200 games sitting in my games tab on Twitch, very few of which I've actually heard of, and fewer of which I've ever touched. Now, I could let them rot in there, or I could pick a few fun-looking ones to play. Maybe I could just marathon them all, ruin my life, fail college, let everything spiral. But instead, I am going to be doing this. Playing each and every game in my library, in no real order, as much to start to finish as I can, and collecting my thoughts here for the entertainment of whoever stumbles upon these videos for some reason. Now, taking a cursory look at the games I have in my library, I already know that length is not going to be consistent necessarily across videos. Not all games are equal in that regard, they're not all as dense. But I'm going to make it long enough to be enjoyable as much as I can without stretching or repeating myself too much. So yeah, I am very excited and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I would do it in alphabetical order, but that doesn't seem quite as interesting as leaving it up to RNGesus and Entropy. If given the choice, I know I would likely gravitate towards the games and genres I'm more familiar with, and doing it in alphabetical order just seems a bit too predictable, I guess. So, without further ado, I'm going to leave it up to chance and see what the universe presents me with today. This can only end well.
Monkey.
Well then, off to a good start. Ape.1 is a top-down game developed by Gabriel Cazillo and published by Devolver Digital. That doesn't really surprise me. This seems like the kind of thing Devolver would do. They have a very unique brand of chaos. It also wasn't very surprising to find out this game's art was done by Bennett Foddy of QWOP and Getting Over It fame. I've played a lot of Bennett's games growing up, and this very much feels like a thing he would be a part of. So it's sort of like Hotline Miami with monkeys. That's the most surface level explanation I can give, and that doesn't quite feel like enough. It's sort of hard to decide where I should start, but I'll see how it goes. Basically, you're an incredibly angry ape. You want to escape, and there are people between you and escape. Those people have guns, but you have muscles. Rip and tear through a lot of armed guards, dodging bullet fire, smashing people to pieces, grabbing them, using their guns, making them meat shields and battering rams. You're a force of nature in a oddly literal way. The game itself is relatively simple, but it escalates the further you get. New enemy types with their own weapons and behaviors, new environmental hazards that could either kill you or aid you, and level design that gets ever more complicated and difficult to navigate. You begin locked up, and then you are presented with this very simple piece of instruction. Ape out. Ape must get out. Makes sense. So you bust out, and from there you have to deal with a few basic enemy types as you navigate this first chapter of the game. You don't have too much to worry about at this point. You have enemies with rifles. They shoot slowly, and you counter a lot of them. They're sort of your cannon fodder foe. You have dudes with shotguns. They are slightly tougher, and their weapons are a fair bit more dangerous, but they're few and far between. You also have explosive enemies with rifles, who can either ruin your day or clear a room and make your life much, much easier. The only environmental concerns you have are walls and windows. Walls are what you smash enemies into. If you punch someone and they skid across the ground and don't hit anything, they're still up and they could shoot you again. Basically, enemies have to be slammed into a wall at full speed to die, or in some cases slammed into each other at full speed. It sort of depends on your MO. The windows are mostly there to sort of emphasize this destruction that you're causing. They don't really affect gameplay, but they do shatter when you walk through them, when you punch them, when you throw enemies through them. They're just there to ramp up the chaos somewhat. At this stage of the game, you don't have much to worry about. Enemy in front of you, enemy must die before he shoot you. This makes sense. Monkey brain happy. So really, it's just ripping your way through the starter level. It's not that hard. It's quite enjoyable. So, the game starts with you violently breaking through a lab in a desperate bid for freedom. Each of the 4 chapters are made up of a few levels, and if you die, you restart that stage. Dying generally means being hit 3 times, so you're by no means invincible. You need to be quick to keep up the mayhem and escape death by gun. Levels are somewhat random, but not to a massive degree, although they do get a bit more random and difficult to navigate as the game progresses. I feel I should mention the other thing I've ignored thus far about this game, that being the soundtrack. From start to finish, this game is backed by jazz drumming of all things. Every level has a unique track, although there are some procedural elements to it. It gets louder the more chaotic things are on screen, and there are little elements like cymbal crashes when you kill an enemy. It really helps bring the game together. Every chapter has a very unique sound and is presented as an album, oddly enough. The soundtrack is a very nice and unexpected addition, and you really start to vibe with it after a while. It really helps bring your experience together. I don't know much about jazz. I've watched Whiplash twice, and that's about it. But it sounds very good to my ears. The longer you go, the more things ramp up. By the second chapter, you have dudes with full auto weapons, there are off-screen snipers taking aim at you, and the whole thing takes place in a skyscraper. This opens up even more possibilities for violence. The levels become longer and therefore much more difficult, as you need to go further without dying unless you restart. By the third level, you're dealing with fire, more explosions, and literally being bombed. By the fourth, you're on a ship, and every level involves running nearly the entire length of it to get deck to deck. You have rocket launcher enemies, dudes with SMGs, more explosions, and later on, a return of the possibility of just flat out falling off the map. I know I've glossed over several hours of gameplay, but that's really what this game boils down to. Ramping stakes, more gameplay elements, more things you have to watch out for, more potential for mistakes, but more fun overall. Its strength is taking these basic elements and doing so much with them. The art style is also fantastic. The game's art was done by Bennett Foddy, as mentioned before. A lot of Foddy's games have a sort of minimalist art style, and this really fits his whole aesthetic and really the aesthetic of the game as a whole. It works well, it's unique, and it's very readable. Really, it's the best thing this game could have gone for. It's a top-down, ape-based beat 'em up backed by freeform jazz drumming. Not the kind of thing that will be helped by ray tracing. When it all comes together, it becomes almost instinctual. You learn how to properly react to enemies after dying to them a great deal of times, and you gain an understanding of how to approach a situation correctly. For example, in my case, sometimes I would default to kill the rocket launchers first, grab a full auto enemy to kill a few cannon fodder dudes, wait behind cover for shotgun reloads before attacking, and rinse and repeat. This game working off of instinct and intuition like that is oddly fitting. What I suppose I'm trying to say here is that I embraced my inner monkey to beat this game, and that is amazing. This game is very to the point, and I love that. There's no great, deeper philosophical meaning, for the most part, that I can really ascertain. There is some environmental storytelling that helps show the absurdity of your ape-scoring misadventures, but you get the basic idea within a level or two, and you get the stakes. Lab, rich dude's office in a skyscraper, military compound, and being shipped away. And in the epilogue, breaking free one more time to escape a zoo. It's not a terribly long game. I beat most of it within a few hours. Well, at least the main game. The harder levels are... well, I'll get to them one of these days. It's $16 in fake Monopoly money. I'm not sure how worth it that would be, considering I got the game for free. But if this genre is your thing, or if this game sounds like your dream game, yeah, I'd recommend picking it up. If not, it will go on sale. I've seen it on sale before on Steam, and if you want to give the game a try, wishlist it, wait for it to go on sale, and, see if you like it. There's some replayability there, I think, though levels are procedurally generated to some degree. And the existence of a timer on your run through the chapter means that you could speedrun this game as well if you want. You know, beat your own times on those levels. It's not quite my thing, but I know people who would get a kick out of that. That's really about it, I suppose. Check the game out. Hey, like I said before, I don't really know what I'm doing with this. This is more of a rambly bit. This isn't scripted, this is just off the top of my head. If you stumble across this video and you have any thoughts of how I can improve, please leave them in the comments. I'll make sure to read every comment I get and try to apply them as best I can to any future videos I might make. Thanks.